All right, let's jump right in. We are not here for some dry, dusty grammar lesson. Not at all. Instead, we're going to crack the code on how to teach a really tricky subject in a way that's clear, engaging, and, honestly, incredibly effective. We're taking a look inside the art of brilliant educational design.
So let me just start with this question. What if learning something complex, like grammar rules, could feel less like a chore and more like solving a really interesting puzzle? I mean, what if it could actually feel intuitive? That's the core idea we're going to explore.
So, what we're looking at here is a masterclass in efficiency. It's a short 11-minute e-learning video made for high school ESL students. And somehow, this tiny module manages to teach one of the toughest concepts in English, conditional sentences, and it just does it beautifully. We're going to break down exactly how they pulled it off.
First things first, let's just get on the same page. Conditional sentences, they're really just those if-then statements we use all the time without even thinking about it. They link a condition with a result, letting us talk about everything from scientific facts to just wild imaginary stuff. So, where does this module's journey begin? Well, it starts in the most logical place you can imagine, with reality. It doesn't just throw learners into the deep end, no. Instead, it starts by building a really solid foundation, one based on concrete rules and facts.
Okay, so check this out, because this slide illustrates the module's first really genius move. It starts over on the left with the zero conditional. We're talking pure, undeniable facts. If you heat ice, it melts. It's simple. It's 100% true. Then, it takes just one small step into probability with the first conditional. If it rains, we will stay home. See that? We've moved from total certainty to a very real possibility. And that deliberate step-by-step progression, that is absolutely key.
And you can see why this initial strategy is just so crucial, right? By starting with the simplest, most verifiable rules and using examples literally everyone can get, the module does something vital. It builds student confidence right off the bat. The whole topic starts to feel manageable, not scary.
All right, so once that foundation of reality is totally solid, then the module's ready to take a leap into the more abstract and imaginative part of the lesson. Welcome to the world of what if.
And this is where we meet the second conditional. Now, this is the one we use for dreaming, right? For imagining things that are unlikely or just not true at the moment. It's the language of hypotheticals. And honestly, this can be the trickiest part for any learner to get their head around. But the module just nails the explanation with this classic example. If I won the lottery, I would buy a house. We all get it instantly, right? It's not real, but we can perfectly picture that scenario. It's a hypothetical dream, and the grammar gives it a very clear structure.
But how do you actually show this abstract idea? Well, the module breaks it down into a simple two-step path. First, you state the unreal condition. If I had more time, and then you state the imagined consequence. I would learn another language. This simple visualization makes the whole structure feel way more tangible. And to really hammer this point home, the module uses these simple little branching animations. This visual tool, this is the secret sauce. It's what turns an abstract grammar rule into a clear, understandable pathway inside the learner's mind.
Okay, so knowing the rules is one thing, right? But actually using them? That's a whole different ballgame. So the next phase of the module is all about bridging that gap between theory and real-world practice, making sure this knowledge actually sticks.
So how do they do it? Well, with simple but super effective interactive exercises, like this little matching game here. By asking students to connect the if part with the correct result, it forces them to really think about the difference between truths, possibilities, and hypotheticals. It's that kind of active recall that makes the learning permanent. And then, in a really clever move, it brings it all together. There's this animated scenario where a character is making decisions, and they're thinking through the consequences, using these exact conditional sentences. It perfectly answers that big question, so what? Why does this matter? It shows that grammar isn't just rules on a page. It's the tool we use for thinking, for making choices every day.
And for the grand finale, the module doesn't end with a boring old test. No way! It ends with a challenge. This is where it takes the whole lesson from just understanding something to actually applying it with creativity.
I mean, just look at this fantastic prompt. It asks students to imagine changing the past, and then describe what the results would be now. It's personal, it's creative, and you literally cannot answer it well without truly understanding the second conditional. It's a perfect way to assess learning. And that's the real magic right there.
The whole goal just shifts. It's no longer about just memorizing a rule. It's about using that rule for empowered, creative self-expression. The module has given the student a new tool, and now it's inviting them to go build something cool with it.
So when you boil it all down, this little 11-minute module gives us a complete blueprint for fantastic teaching. You start simple and then build up. You visualize the abstract stuff, you reinforce with practice, you connect it to real life, and you wrap it all up with a challenge that sparks creativity. It's just a powerful, repeatable pattern.
So I'll leave you with a final thought, turning the module's own brilliant challenge back on us. Using that same imaginative spirit, if you could change one thing about the way we all teach and learn, what would you do differently, and what would the consequences be? It's a pretty powerful question to think about.